So I was very encouraged from listening to Nico that he's working very closely with you. And I know you are of that nature of looking to extend a hand of friendship and cooperation to fellow African airlines. So congrats on that. I do believe you have a formal presentation. Or do you?
Not really.
Not really. Oh, good. Then we can have a nice discussion. JOAO, it goes back years that I have known you. I believe I was very kindly invited by LAM or Boeing to Seattle in the mid-90s, I believe, when you were a young, and you're still very young, a young engineer from Mozambique, a country I'd never actually been to at that time. And here you were in Seattle, a young, from my perspective, a very young, talented individual from Africa, supervising the production of the Boeing 767 and the entry into service. And I was so privileged to fly to Seattle and to do the tour of the great Boeing facility in Seattle and to join you on the ferry flight, which was very successful. And over the years, I've seen you at Pratt & Whitney, great success in many roles. And it's very pleasing, in my perspective, to see you elevated now to the CEO level. I do believe, from my knowledge of you, you are a bridge builder on a personal level. I've seen that in Addis, I've just seen that in Nigeria, in Mozambique, across the continent. So let me start by asking you, when you were given the very hot seat of CEO LAM-Mozambique, what was your first reaction?
Thank you, Nick. Good afternoon, everyone. I mean, my first reaction was thinking about these people here and you. I wouldn't be able to do anything without the support. And I must say, this was 92, by the way,
92.
when we met in Seattle.
Okay.
And I mean, until then, I was basically working as an engineer. I'd started in 1983. I'm a young man, like Fainus said, but I started in 83.
Yeah, true.
And then someone wrote something about me in a magazine and said that, you know, I could do a lot more. And ever since I've thought about that, and you wrote that about me, Nick. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I mean, when I was called, I mean, my first reaction was to sit with the government and say, yeah, I'd love to do this, and it's possible to do, but, you know, I have some preconditions. And, you know, they immediately asked me if it was the salary. I said, no, I don't want to know about my salary. I want to know if we can operate in similar terms that, like Nico referred to, and that I witnessed for 10 years, you know, which is like Ethiopian Airlines. Ethiopian Airlines, and I don't want to go very deep into it, but everyone knows, if you look at their structure now, Ethiopian Airlines manages the airport, the catering, the handling, the airline, the training academy. So it has full control and at the same time full support of government to grow as it is. So that's basically what I said, and that's basically what I thought about. And then I thought about the people that were there that had done before such great, had achieved such great success from the 92s, and even before when we operated the DC-10, that DC-10 we operated from Montevideo to Bangkok, Copenhagen, Paris, Cuba, and always very well. And the same people were there. And by the way, the restructuring started, the government eliminated a group of executives, and they told me, you know, you are free to bring who you want. And I didn't bring one single person in technical and operations. I only brought one person who happens to be an Ethiopian to commercial. So
and could you just educate us or update us on your fleet, aircraft fleet, current aircraft fleet and route network?
Yeah, we're a very small fleet. We have 4 aircraft, 4 jets in the main airline, 2 737s. One we just got in from it's a lease of AirCap, same as the first 737-700 that we've had since 2014. We have 2 Embraer 190s, E1s that we own, and we have 3 Embraer 145s that are financial leases that we're about to finalize the acquisition. About 670 seats altogether.
And the route network, could you just update us?
Okay, our route network is mainly the domestic. We serve all airports domestically, 11 destinations, and it's a combination of business and leisure. And we serve Johannesburg, Dar es Salaam, and Nairobi. We have closed Harare due to lack of equipment, but we want to reopen Harare except for the problems with the currency export.
Mm-hmm. And when you look at the government of Mozambique, I mean, to their credit, they opened the market. Everybody in Africa has been talking about opening your skies. And your government went a step further. They opened the skies very liberally and allowed cabotage, I believe, in the sense that a foreign, let me not call any African airline a foreign airline, an African airline, Ethiopian Airlines to be precise, took the advantage of that government policy of Mozambique and moved in and created a 100% equity-owned airline. And to my great surprise, rather than cooperating with the local national carrier, they're going head-to-head with you. How do you contend with that?
Well, one of the first steps we took, of course, at the beginning of the restructuring was to stabilize the schedule, improve the product, improve service, improve our OTP, our on-time performance dramatically, because that's what we had lost our customer base for, by the way, too fast jet. And what Nico said is we felt that we could complement each other rather than fight each other. And we very soon started getting not only market share, but the market started to increase in numbers because people could say, okay, I can fly morning LAM and come back in the afternoon with fast jet. And we basically formalized that as soon as we started the restructuring. Nico and myself spoke and shook hands, and we said we must do something. And we did it really, we rushed, we cut corners, and we said let's do somehow. And we reached now a code share, a formal code share, which we are building up in all the routes. And the very good advantage we have with that is that FastJet is quick, is a very low cost, structurally, as an operation that has low cost, and very flexibly, because the market is very dynamic, they can introduce extra capacity. We are using FastJet FastJet airplanes or Solent airplanes on our route network when we need extra capacity or when we have aircraft grounded. So that kind of gave us the power we needed to face the competitor. We have to respect the decision of the government. It's there, but in a way the market has not changed over to Ethiopian Airlines. It's a very price-sensitive market, like someone was saying here about, I think Nick was saying about Tanzania. And of course Ethiopia can afford to do that. They can afford to cut our fares, but only the very small portion of the price-sensitive market is going to Ethiopian. So we still have the luxury to show growth since last year.
Okay. Could you tell us what is it called Ethiopian Airlines, the local operation?
Yeah, Ethiopian Airlines Mozambique.
Ethiopian Airlines Mozambique. Could you give us an idea of what their fleet structure is in Mozambique?
They have 3 Q400s based there. I would say, according to what we see, they use about 1.5. They had one 737-800, but they very soon realized our airports, both runway length and LCN, are not prepared for the 800, and also firefighting category. So they immediately removed that airplane out. Bringing a 737-800 is going to be a big blow for us because they can compete with us even deeper than they are now. When will they bring that 800 in? I mean, bringing an 800 will be difficult because that will require major changes to airport runways, right, parking areas, and the firefighting capacity. Will they fund that themselves? I don't know. I don't think they would because it's a very high cost. Yeah. I think the 700 is the airplane for Mozambique because the oil and gas are building a private runway now, and it's meant to be for 700s. Okay, interesting.
And not to beat the subject too much, but could you give us an idea of the market share in terms of passengers between yourselves and Nico, or Fastjet on the one hand, and Ethiopian Airlines Mozambique on the other hand?
Is Nico here?
Is Nico here?
Well, it's 20-80% LAM. We have 80% of the market, and
You have
Ethiopian
80% of the market.
80% of the market, yes. And Ethiopian has 20%. They're low on capacity and low on schedule. With the Fastjet, we are code sharing with them in all their routes. In some routes we have a fixed base of number of seats available. In some of the routes we have a flexible number of seats. That's because of the GDS limitations. But Fastjet flies in one of the routes with their own equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So, I would say on those 80% we share probably 10-90, if I'm correct. I don't have the latest numbers, yeah.
And why do you think you have such a greater share of the market? Is it service? Is it pricing? How would you, is it loyalty from the Mozambique population?
Yeah, actually, it's interesting. I believe it's a combination. Before we started introducing these steps to become on time, to have a better product, we had a lot of criticism from the market. But that criticism is like, sorry again, husband and wife. It's because you love each other and you feel like you have to talk about the bad things. And we learned that the market wanted us to perform better. And as soon as we started performing better, the market started coming back to us. So we invested a lot on on-time performance. We have very good cooperation with the ACMI operators here, like ACA, Star Air Cargo. We will be bringing more equipment as the oil and gas loads start increasing. So I believe that was one, the product, loyalty, and price-wise we stopped fighting because we can't afford to drop further with Ethiopian Airlines.
Yeah. To put it into context, if Kenya Airways or Egypt Air came to South Africa and we had Egypt Air South Africa with cabotage rights, it would be quite surprising. But from what you've said, with the larger market share, with the loyalty of the flying public, you might be a giant killer in terms of David and Goliath.
Yes.
In the long run with Ethiopian.
Correct. Yeah.
And of course, we have tremendous respect for Ethiopian Airlines, tremendous respect. But and they're doing wonderful joint ventures around Africa. But this is the first time, to the best of my knowledge, that they have gone into another African country to compete head-to-head with a local national carrier. And I just wonder whether that might be the trend going forward. And if it is, I think it might be quite problematic for Ethiopian Airlines in terms of right now they are respected and valued across the continent. But I believe in Mozambique there have been reservations about this new policy of the government. Do you think the government might rethink the open door policy?
Well, the government has already opened through a public tender, and I don't think it would go back into it. But I can see there is a tendency to push for a partnership, and they're pushing us as well, by the way.
Okay.
So we are looking. We've been to Ethiopian. We've spoken to Ethiopian management, and I believe that if we go on a cooperation basis, we'll win all. Yes. If we carry on fighting, it's like you say, maybe Emirates will come in and register a company locally, and not even Ethiopian will be able to sustain that. Yeah. So it would be better, because our intention would be to consolidate the domestic market with a partnership, and then feed the Ethiopian or whoever is the carrier, the selected carrier, feed them in their network. Yeah. With the oil and gas, we will have just in one area 17,000 expats that need to be dropped in some hub to be taken to the Far East. So that only is a business where all can win. We will have to increase dramatically our fleet. We cannot do it organically. We have balance sheet issues. We have financing issues. So if we do it together with a partner like being it Ethiopian, Egypt, South African, we will be able to much better position ourselves in that market.
Yes, certainly. I do hope, and I do foresee a time in the not too distant future when Ethiopian Airlines will, I believe, knock on your door. And you have a very close relationship with Ethiopian Airlines. You lived in Addis for 10 years. And I knew throughout that 10 years I was interacting with you, and you were highly respected by Ethiopian Airlines as an airline with the management. And I'm quite sure at some stage they would try and do a partnership with you. We want to see all three airlines survive and prosper: FastJet, LAM-Mozambique Airlines, and of course Ethiopian. So I do hope and pray that at some stage there will be a working partnership. Before we close for our final panel for today, could you just update us on your relationship with aircraft lessors? I believe there are maybe some fleet changes in the pipeline. Are you free to tell us, inform us really what the changes are and the timelines going forward?
No, of course, I can share with you, and this has happened about 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
We have just we sold one of our 737s that we owned, a 500, and we had to replace it. And AirCap on a visit we had there, I didn't have a balance sheet to show, but with the story, or I should say, with the argument of the upcoming business and the relationship we're having with the oil and gas companies. We already have one of them that started to fly us. We have some embassies that have upgraded us from no fly to adequate to fly. So with that, I think we've seen, and AirCap people are here, can talk to them, but we have gotten this aircraft, and we have been offered more aircraft to increase our fleet. We intend to increase to 3 aircraft this year, 3 700s, retire our 190s back because they're coming due some structural checks, and we can't afford to have a diverse fleet now because of pilots, commonality parts. So we are having a Q400 also. We are about to sign for a Q400, and we're looking for 1 or 2 more. So our relationship with lessors is very good. Of course, with banking, we'll have to improve our balance sheet to get more access to finance, and we will need that as soon as we grow further. We want to also start a flight to Europe. Lisbon would be our selected route, but we'll have to start that with a partnership again with the lower risk of operating costs.
So it's interesting to note at this conference that the world's largest aircraft lessor, AirCap, and I believe Mr. John Lee may be here in the audience, and David and Sarah, have partnered with, forgive me, a small regional airline in Africa. What do you believe gave them the confidence to, you said you don't have the balance sheet strength, but they still came and did a deal with you?
I think they like prawns and lobster. But apart from that, I believe it's that story. It was coincident that I met in January in Dublin during the Air Finance, and we had just started to be selected by Anadarko, and AENI was also going to fly with us. So I believe that the promise for growth of traffic and good yields as opening new routes. And I also think, and I'm trying to read their mind, that the stability that was put in the airline, and the biggest value we have in the airline, the human capital, was showing capabilities of running the airline properly, safely, and in an economical way. We had achieved what you call break-even in November, December, but with Ethiopian coming, we had to drop the fare, so we went back to the red. But we are right there now, and I believe that with the traffic starting to grow, we will be able to get back to break-even. March was difficult. We lost a lot of money because we had the cyclone, which was mentioned here before, and this is one of the aspects where I think national carriers are important. I mean, we didn't sleep for 3 days until we landed in Beira with blood, with medical supplies, with doctors. And it's not normally meant to be like that. Not a not an airline, not a scheduled carrier, but we had to put together all the required conditions in order to fly. So, I mean, I think that's where we make a big difference as a national carrier. Look at Tanzania, he's building up a national carrier, like Nico said, what you call Senegal, Rwanda, you know. So I believe that's the story that we tell, and that I think puts some confidence into the partners. Yeah.
Yeah. I would also like to believe, and I can't speak for AirCap, of course, but I would like to believe that they may have had tremendous confidence in the new leadership, your good self at LAM, in terms of corporate governance, paying receivables on time, and just performing to the contractual obligations of the lease arrangements. But that's quite important, sure. Don't you agree?
Well, definitely. That was the first step we took, actually, when we started this restructuring. Finance made sure that, you know, we started showing at least a plan to pay the debt. I mean, with BP, for example, we had to tanker fuel to Johannesburg, where we had to carry 30% less passengers because we wouldn't be able to uplift fuel. So we had to come up with a plan, which we are paying almost religiously, but we did that, and we are, you know, we're paying according to plan when we can, and when we cannot, of course. We have a very open relationship where we say what's going on, and that, I agree, that also might have helped building up that confidence.
Well, I would like to congratulate you. As you said, I met you for the first time in 1992. It seems quite a long time ago, but light years away. But your trajectory in terms of experience and expertise and the way you've climbed the corporate ladder has been very impressive. And you're always the same humble JOAO that we know and love. So thank you for that. Thank you for your achievements. I love the fact that JOAO is a very passionate Pan-Africanist in terms of bringing Africa together. So I would like to invite all of us to give Mr. JOAO Jorge, the CEO of LAM-Mozambique, a warm round of applause.